All right, can you hear me now? Hopefully this is working now. Let me check my audio. Okay, it looks like it's working. Sorry about that, was having some audio problems. Can just somebody confirm in the chat that you can hear me? Assalamu alaikum everybody. Yes, you can hear me. All right, brilliant. Okay, sorry about that. It was just the plug for the mic seems to be acting up. So it disconnected when I started. All right, we already have somebody in us, Saeed Uzbek. I'll be adding you as soon as I finish through this quick presentation. I'll try to be quick, and then we can get some input from somebody else. All right, okay, so this one, what I want to talk about here is life and hell. These are, of course, hot topics, but let me try to give something of a perspective of something which I stumbled a lot. First of all, let me go into a preamble, the problem of hell. Oops, not that. Okay, so firstly, that there is actually seen that it's actually seen as a problem is in itself a problem. Okay, hell isn't a problem if we understand it in the right way. Okay, the issue is that it's seen as if it's a clash between God's mercy and God's justice, and of course, it just isn't. Okay, that there is a hell, that's part of God's mercy, just as the fact that there is a heaven is part of God's justice. We don't look at the people who enter heaven and we say that's not just. Okay, it is part of justice. They go together because in the end, God is one God. He's not dividing his qualities and setting them against each other. Okay, God's qualities are not in competition with each other. The second thing I want to say is that look, God is waiting for Judgment Day to judge us, right? He's seen what we've already done and he's seen we've already committed and what we are doing already right now. All right. But yet, despite that, there are people who wish to judge God as cruel and evil for hell right now, which hasn't even happened yet. Okay, and which they have not seen, and it will occur after death and after resurrection in a whole other realm. So it's very unfair that we should judge on something which hasn't even occurred yet. Yes, I know the descriptions will make people want to do that, but at the same time, that's just a perspective we need to get back to. Okay, that God is waiting for Judgment Day to judge us, yet we are wanting to judge God now. The other thing is that in this world we understand the differences between justice and injustice, right? And they are the same, which God has commanded. God has commanded justice and injustice. So God's understanding of justice and injustice are the same as ours. It's what we understand of them now. Okay, we see these concepts all around us. Okay, but we don't truly understand, nor have we seen hell yet. We don't know what that will be like. So when God says, none will be wronged, even the weight of an atom, despite they're going to be going into hell, and you will only be recompensated for what you used to do and no more, not an atom weights more, we should allow that what we know of justice, and specifically God's justice, we should allow that to take priority over what we don't know and don't fully understand and has yet to even happen, instead of thinking of God as cruel in some way. The worst that anybody can say logically is that there's a contradiction between how hell is described and God's declaration that there will be justice and absolutely no injustice. You could say there's a contradiction there, but when you have any kind of contradiction, you can't just just decide which side you're going to go with. Okay, if you see that as a contradiction, that doesn't give you the right to then turn around and say, no, God is unjust. No, it's a contradiction, and you say it's hell is an injustice, whereas God, and you understand that the description of God of hell as unjust, but you also understand that God has declared that he will be completely just and there will be no injustice. You can say that's a contradiction and stop there. But by what right do you choose one side over the other? Okay, so that was just a preamble, a couple of things I wanted to speak about. What I want to really discuss is an idea. Now, this is actually why I wanted to mention this today, is it's actually related to why I wanted to start it. Well, the morning that I decided to do these streams was the morning that I stumbled across this idea from the Qur'an. So the idea is that the possibility that those in hell are actually neither alive nor dead, okay, but in a state which is in between. And it just might be me saying that. Those of you who are quite aware and familiar with the Quran will already be able to have a few verses in your mind buzzing about this idea of those in hell not being alive nor dead. Okay, we could actually say it's a state which is where they are in fact less alive than we are here. So the main verse that got me thinking about this was this one in Surah Al-A'la, which is a surah we read all the time. At least I've read all the time since I was very young. And it says أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, about the one who enters hell. ثم لا يموت فيها ولا يحيا. Then he will neither die in it nor live. So he will neither be dead in it nor alive. So neither that nor the other. Okay, so he's not alive, but also not dead. Okay, now compare that with how al-dar al-akhirah, the abode or the home of the hereafter in the positive sense, is described. Because also in the Quran it mentions al-akhirah in a negative sense. But whenever it's mentioned in a positive sense, okay, first of all, it's the akhirah can be mentioned in a positive or negative sense. But dar, the abode, the home, is only mentioned in the positive sense. Okay, and in it, what's declared is, like in this verse here in Surah Al-Ankabut, it says, وَمَا هَذِهِ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا لَهْوٌ وَلَعِبٌ وَإِنَّ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةَ لَهِيَ الْحَيَوَانُ لَوْ كَانُوا يَعْلَمُونَ. The life of this lower world is but idle diversion and play. But truly the abode, the dar of the akhirah, that is truly life. It is real life, if they had but only known. And the word used here, al-hayawan, for those who know some Arabic, they might recognize that as the same word we use for saying animals. An animal is called a hayawan, right? But here it's the emphatic of hayat, which is life. Just like here you have al-hayat al-dunya, okay? The emphatic of hayat, something alive, is hayawan. Just like rahmah, you have rahman, right? Hayat, you have hayawan, okay? So what does that mean? It means that the next abode is true life. Life there is more alive or more full of life than here, which is but idleness and play in comparison. Now the word abode, like I said, the dar, is only used for the hereafter when referring to it in the positive sense, okay? For its negative, i.e. hell, it isn't used. So hell is not a dar. Hell is not a dar. And so it can't be included in that previous verse where we say, in the dar al-akhirah, hiya al-hayawan. Hell is not included in that. Okay, you won't find in the Quran a verse where it speaks of hell and the punishment as being a dar. Even though in normal Islamic discourse, we have that idea. We have the idea that the dar of the akhirah is either hell or heaven. But in the Quran, no, dar is only used in the positive sense. But I'm not going to go fully into that. So again, the dar of the akhirah, which is heaven and the like, is described as having life. But the akhirah in the negative sense is not described as a dar. And again, you have more verses which confirm that it's a place seeming to be between life and death. So here's another verse in Surah Taha. إِنَّهُ مَن يَأْتِ رَبَّهُ مُجْرِمًا فَإِنَّ لَهُ جَهَنَّمَ لَا يَمُوتُ فِيهَا وَلَا يَحْيَا. Truly he who comes to his Lord as a criminal, then for him is Jahannam. He shall neither die in it, sorry, typo there, shall neither die in it nor be alive. And another verse, وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا لَهُمْ نَارُ جَهَنَّمَ لَا يُقْضَى عَلَيْهِمْ فَيَمُوتُوا وَلَا يُخَفَّفُ عَنْهُمْ مِنْ عَذَابِهَا كَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي كُلَّ كَفُورٍ. Those who have kafaru, for them is the fire of Jahannam. They will never be finished off, so they'll never be completely finished off, so that they die, okay, nor will its punishment be lessened. So again, this idea that they are not dead, but they are also not alive. It's like, in this verse, it almost seems like they're heading towards death, but they never reach it. They're heading towards death, but they never reach it. Okay, لهم نار جهنم لا يقضى عليهم فيموتوا. It never happens that they are completely finished off and die. Okay, and in another verse here, the key part is, and again, typo, sorry, I just typed this up very quickly beforehand. And death will come at him from every place, yet he is not dead. Okay, وَيَأْتِيهِ الْمَوْتُ مِنْ كُلِّ مَكَانٍ وَمَا هُوَ بِمَيِّتٍ. All right, so what can we say about that? And then the point I want to say now, I want to give this idea that sort of talking like about a hierarchy of existence. Okay, hierarchy of existence. Could we say that these three areas, in terms of existence, are in a hierarchy? Because what can life and death can be equated with? What can they be equated with if not existence and non-existence? So if we take them from the top, you have the abode of the akhirah. Okay, so Jannah and the like. That is true life and true existence. Then less than that, you have this world, this lower world, which is a meager life, a shadow of a life, with many who are actually walking dead, in idleness and play. And then below that, on the sort of the ladder of existence, you have the fire, okay, which is a place between life and death, between existence and non-existence. Which makes you wonder, is this fire, النار الكبرى, is it really just they're being returned to sort of the melting pot, so to speak, the melting pot of non-existence? Is it the fire of non-existence, which will slowly eat away at them for all eternity in a sort of like an exponential decay, if you can think of it in terms of mathematics? So that's basically what I want to share with you today. I've promised that when I share my own food for thought on this caravan that we're taking together, that I'll try to keep it between 10 to 15 minutes to try to get others involved. So let me check now and see who do we have. And we have quite a few people who are ready to join. Okay, so we have Al-Kazaz and Saeed, Uzbekistan. It says here your device is not connected. It says your guest needs to connect their mic before you can add them. So please connect your mic. In the meantime, I'm going to add Al-Kazaz. Assalamu alaikum and welcome.
Wa alaikum salam. Is my mic okay?
Yeah, your mic is okay. We can hear you fine.
Okay, thank you.
How are you, my friend?
Good, thank you.
Thank you for coming on.
Yeah. Should I just start?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, tell us. Give us some food for thought here.
If you look at many of the religions around the world, you'll see like a pattern. For example, if you trace back like Hinduism, you'll see that there's some text here. I'll paste it in the chat as well if you want like the source.
Yeah.
These texts basically say that like there is one mighty God named Ishwar, and he is omnipresent and the manager of the entire universe. And like all of them say like the exact same thing about this one God named Ishwar. And these are like pretty old texts, like they precede like the other ones, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
And I found it interesting because it's like an evidence of like monotheism, and like at some point Hinduism became like polytheistic as it came on.
Okay.
Like, it also reminds me of like the Trinity, because like it just seems like the Trinity, but like much more complex, All
right, brilliant. What do you have like a link for that? You can.
I put the sources in the chat. The text.
In the chat. Let me have a look. Oh, that. Okay. I'll show that. So this is it. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Brilliant. Okay. Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that.
How's everything
more. Else? Yeah. Go ahead. Bring as much as you can.
Okay. Thank you. There's also the ancient Sumerians. They worship these things called the Anunnaki, and like in their drawings, they're depicted as like angel-like beings. So we credit the Sumerians for inventing stuff like the wheel, farming, animal husbandry, like law, like basically all of the main things of civilization, right? They were like one of the first, right? And the thing is, they never claimed that they invented any of this. Instead, they claim that the Anunnaki came down from the sky and taught them all these things. Now, I'm not saying this is like a solid theory, but like in the Qur'an, like the story of the angels that brought down magic. I forgot their names.
Harut and Marut.
Yeah, Harut and Marut. God has been known to send down angels to teach mankind things in the past, and I found this interesting that like these angel-like beings came from the sky and taught them all this. It's the similarity there. Yeah, no,
that is very interesting. Is that similar? Would you say that's similar to how some people speak of, shamanism? In shamanism, they seem to, the shamans, in forests and places like, they seem to know a lot about, specific herbs and how you mix them together from, from trees. Like the whole ayahuasca thing, which is, how could they figure out that you need to take the vine from this plant and something from another plant and put them together before you can get the active ingredient.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Is that sort of also what you'd think?
Yeah,
equating that with that verse of angels.
I don't know. I think
because most people would say, most Muslims definitely would say that shamans are getting this information from like jinn and shayateen and those sort of things.
Maybe. I was just about to get to jinn actually. With
All right, go ahead.
Even like most of these religions, like it just seems like they just started worshipping jinns or angels, and with Zoroastrianism, at one point they were monotheistic as well. They believe in this being, and they call him the supreme creator, the one and only God who is worshipped alone. Their beliefs are to think good, to speak good, to act good, and only through goodness will chaos be kept at bay. And a person's goodness determines their ultimate fate after death. They also believe that at the end of the world, all the dead will be resurrected into new bodies. Like that sounds exactly like what the Quran says.
Yeah, no, it does. I mean, Zoroastrianism, from what I can gather, it seems like it could have definitely been a divinely revealed
they also mentioned
religion.
In the Quran, the Magis.
Yeah, the Majus. They say the Majus or the Zoroastrians.
Yeah. But they
Brilliant.
started worshipping these things called the Holy Guardian. No, they started worshipping like these angel-like things as well. I think there's like 7 of them or something.
Okay.
Like yeah.
Yeah, I don't know much about Zoroastrianism, to be honest, but it's a typical thing that happens, right, with any of the revealed religions. Over time, they stray away from how they're revealed, and of course, the longer the time, the more opportunity that is to happen. But the one thing I've always wondered about how all religions go astray is that what is the timeline? Because it seems to if somebody's very aware of the history of Islam, then you could say that the seeds of the going astray were there even before the Prophet passed away. So very quickly things deviated. I mean, within within the lifetime of one person. If you had been born the day that the Prophet died, then by the time you were 30, you would not have been able to recognize anything really. And that's why you have those narrations of people like Anas bin Malik who would say that I don't recognize anything from what I used to see from the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I always wondered about the timeline of other religious communities which are divinely revealed. How quickly did they stray away from their religions? Because for the best time for Shaitan and his allies to try to divert things would be at the beginning. Now you don't when you divert things right at the beginning, then that continues on all the way down the time. I mean, even Christianity very early on, right? You had Paul, on the road to Damascus and that sort of thing. So I've always wondered about that when you look at other religions, how would it be?
Yeah, if it only takes
brilliant.
30 years. If it only takes 30 years for something to change that much, then imagine like thousands of years.
Yeah,
it's not
precisely
too far off. Yeah.
But the flip side of that is that once things have been changed early on, it could be that once things have been, once a religion becomes institutionalized, then it will remain that way for, thousands of years, right? I mean, once it's been set sort of in stone and you have a whole religious clergy and a machinery around it that self-protects it and brings in new people which, continue to perpetuate it, then does it go further away or does it just stay in that state of being far away from the original
There needs to be a
teachings?
balance, I think, because it can't be too strict. At the same time, it can't be too open.
Yeah. Brilliant. Excellent. Thank you so much.
It.
All right, brilliant. So much. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing that. Let me see. There's a few other people who would like to come on. So it's okay if I remove you off now?
Yeah.
All right, brilliant. Excellent. Please do come again for the next one if you have anything else you'd like to share. Jazakallah khair. All right. We still have Saeed, Uzbekistan. It says your device is not connected, but we have somebody else, Hector. I'm going to add you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. How are you, Hector?
Good. I'm doing good. It's a blessing to be here.
Allah barak feek. How are you?
I've been watching your videos for a few months now, and they really opened up a lot of things that I didn't know, a lot of doors, and I want to thank you for that and for those videos that you post. I do have a question on what you were talking about, Dar al-Akhirah. Now, it seems to me that the way I'm understanding it, correct me if I'm wrong, please, that it's only that refers only to Jannah, and then Jahannam is something else.
Yeah, exactly. Well, when I looked at this, I found that the word ad-dar. So, for example, it says, in al-akhirati lahiya darul qarar. That's said in the Quran, ad-darul akhirah. And it says a key verse for this is the famous verse in Surah Al-Qasas, where it says, تلك الدار الآخرة نجعلها للذين لا يريدون علوا في الأرض ولا فسادا. This is the abode of the Akhirah. We will make it for those who do not want elevation on the earth, no corruption. Okay, so the Dar al-Akhirah is always meant in a positive sense. The abode of the Akhirah is always meant in the positive sense. It's never meaning the hellfire is never called a Dar. Okay, and which makes sense. I mean, the actual word Dar means a home, right?
Yeah, exactly.
An abode, right? And that's another verse I was going to put on here was that verse which says, in the Dar al-Akhirah, here Darul Qarar, the Dar of Qarar. Qarar means stability. Okay, and stability again is, you can equate that with existence. Okay, that once you have stability, you're not leaving. You're not going to die off. You're not going to go. Okay, so the Dar al-Akhirah and who Dar al-Qarar, right? Whereas this Dar is not. For example, this Dar we're in now, well, I don't even know if this world is called a Dar, but in that verse it says, I think it's the one in Surah Ghafir, where the believer says to the family of Pharaoh, the believer from the family of Pharaoh, he says something along the lines of, يا قوم إنما هذه الدنيا متاع والآخرة هي دار القرار. Right, this dunya is just pleasures and amusements, but the next dar, that is the dar of qarar. Okay, so that's what I wanted to get across with that.
Thank you for clearing that up. Then that brings me to another question that I had concerning Jahannam in this case. Because I've read in some texts that there are some scholars that believe that Jahannam is not a permanent location, or it's not even a permanent dimension. Is there any way that fits into this topic?
I think in a certain way you could say it that way. I mean, I think that the only true eternal is God, in that sense. But you could say that the hell and heaven are eternal by God. That's how the classics used to describe that. They'd say God is eternal, but because He's eternal, He's now keeping hell and heaven eternal as well. But even if that's the case, okay, well, if that's the case, I personally don't see much evidence for the idea that hell will come to an end. Okay, I don't think it will come to an end. But the reason why I wanted to share this, and for some people could take this and form their own philosophy around this about hell, which is that hell could be something which is sort of dissipating, almost for infinity in that kind of way. I personally, the way I view it is that hell is eternal, but the punishment inside it is still finite. Okay, it's eternal, but the punishment in it is still finite. And there are ways that you can show that. You can definitely conceptualize it. We can do that in using mathematics. We can conceptualize things like this. Where on one dimension it goes on for infinity, but on another dimension, no, it's finite. So that's how I see that.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for answering my questions.
God bless you. Barakallahu feek. Okay, let's see if I can get somebody else on, okay?
Yes,
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, let's see who else do I have here. Saeed, your mic is still not on, but we have Miss Sam. Okay. Oh, no, we don't have him anymore. Oh, no, we do, down there. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. How are you, bro? How is it doing? How's everything?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good as well, man. Alhamdulillah. Thank you for having me here, man. Jazakallah. It's an honor. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for coming on. It's good to see that
Thank
people
you,
have
bro.
decided to start coming on.
Yeah, for sure. This is something that was really needed,
Hello, we seem to have lost you. We lost your mic there. Hello? We lost your mic. Do you think we can get you back? Yeah, it seems to have frozen. I'll tell you what, I'll remove you and then put you back on. Maybe that will fix it up, okay? All right, let me put you back on now. Add to stream. No. Okay, so I've added you, but even your video is not showing up now. All right, let me see if there's any other way. Oh, no. Okay, he'll probably come back. All right, we don't have anybody else in the studio. Let me just check the chat. There we have. Salam, Khabab, how are you? Question or commentator says Zoroastrianism was close to creed to monotheism, that early scholars treated them as people of the book. Yes, that's right. They were called people of the book. Early scholars, seem to treat almost everybody, well, not almost everybody, but they treated a lot as people of the book. Some of that might be due to because they want, the rulers wanted more people of the book to pay jizya, right? So, even the Hindus early on were called people of the book, and because they had this idea of jizya, that could have influenced that. I'm not entirely sure, but there is that angle. Yeah, Ziryab, Assalamu alaikum. If anybody doesn't know Ziryab, he has a great channel. He's saying here the Zoroastrianism seems to have leaned into dualism in response to the problem of evil. Yeah. All right, we have Missam. You're gonna have to tell me how to pronounce your name, but you're back. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Sorry, bro. I think there's some issue with the connection, or I think it's just my laptop acting crazy.
Yeah.
Anyways,
no
my name is Maysam. It's usually spelled M-A-Y-S-A-M. Maysam.
All right, Missam. Where are you from, Missam?
I'm from Pakistan.
Okay, mashallah, Missam.
And yourself, by the way, bro?
Well, originally from Sudan. We're Sudanese originally.
Mashallah, now. And you said it's GMT +4, I think so. Are you close by in the Middle East region as well?
Yeah, exactly, in the Middle East.
So I'm currently based in UAE.
All right, okay, brilliant.
And you? Okay, yes. Maybe you don't.
Close by, let's say close by. Let's just say close by.
All right, mashallah. Anyway, so just wanted to speak about the topic that you've chosen today. So, like you said, that the punishment in hell, it's finite, right? Just that I'm clear on that. But hell itself is infinite.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But like I don't know which verse exactly it is, but there's a verse in the Quran where it says that the people of hellfire are gonna stay in hellfire as long as the heavens and the earth remain, or until Allah wills. Yeah. And then the same goes for the people of the Jannah.
Yeah. So those verses which are in Surah Hud, I think, they're some of the verses which are used by those who argue that no hellfire will come to an end. So it says at the end of that verses that they will stay in until however the heavens and the earth endure. So they're not going to endure forever. So hell and also heaven are not going to endure forever. But there's a caveat at the end of both verses, where the one where it speaks about hell, it says that God will do whatever he wants. And the one at the end of the one which speaks about heaven, it says, a gift that will not be taken away. Right? So some infer from that no, in the end, hellfire will be ended. But the thing about it is that we have many verses which just say explicitly that people will not exit hellfire. There's no verses anywhere in the Quran which talk about people who enter in hell and then they come out. And we've lost you again, unfortunately. Yeah, unfortunately, we've lost you again. Try to come back on and I'll add you again. But that's basically what I can say about that. Ziryab, let me add you on. Hey, assalamu alaikum, Ziryab.
Wa alaikum assalam.
How are you, bro?
Okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
How are you?
I'm good. Yourself?
Alhamdulillah. Yeah, just to carry on that conversation on the topics of existence and hell and finite.
You had a question here which I didn't get to put on. Let me see if I can. What does this was it, right? What does a non-life and non-death existence look like? Well, that's the thing, right? We don't really know, but you can imagine it only. I mean, the closest to something between life and death that we know is when you're asleep, right? Dreams, right? They say that death, sleep is like in between death and life in that kind of way. So you could even put it in that kind of category. But I just thought this was something very interesting that I'd share. I mean, it's not something which I'm sort of remember these streams are just for people to share their contemplations on different verses. And this was one which I haven't thought too deeply on it, but it came to me the day that I decided to do the stream. So I thought I'd share this because it is very interesting when you look at it that hellfire and those in hellfire, they are talked about in many in those verses which I mentioned as being between life and death, okay, as heading towards death but not reaching it, right? Whereas the akhirah, dar al-akhirah, is described in emphatic terms of life, in lahi al-hayawan, right? And this life is sort of like the benchmark from which we can measure both of those, right? So we can look at hell and the people in hell and we say, no, they are less alive than we are, okay? Less alive, or could almost say that as heading almost towards non-existence, in between existence and non-existence. Whereas when we look at the Darul Akhirah, Lahi al Hayawan, we say no, they're over there, they are more alive than us, which is why they will not sleep, for example. There's no death, etc. So I thought it was just something very interesting that maybe somebody could pick it up and run with that and come up with another idea for sort of the problem of hell, which I don't see as a problem, like I said. Yeah. So do you have any?
It leads to the problem, the wider problem of it leads to the wider problem of evil and the question of how evil entered the world and those kind of questions, which are all very interesting. And as I commented earlier, in my view, I think the development of Zoroastrianism lent itself towards a dualist take in response to the problem of evil. And so in the sense of the kind of exaggeration of you've got the two forces, and I can't remember what the evil force is called, but they exaggerated its role to the extent of essentially making it like a god, right? So so I think it's interesting. Again, just to tie certain terms, I think when we tighten up, so to speak, certain terminology, it helps us to fix things. So, for example, just as an idea, the idea of heaven or paradise or the gardens and the fire as being perpetual. So put in motion, so to speak, thinking about it in the terms of putting it in motion, and we know that it was God who put it in motion in that sense. And with all things, ultimately, it's God who is the necessary being. It's God who commences the cosmos, so to speak. So with all of that being said, then you can think about it in terms of a perpetual aspect, and then the question of infinite or finite doesn't really come into play, because you've defined it or tightened the term as being one of perpetualness or being in a state of perpetuity.
Yeah.
So that's one thought. But I did have something else I had actually shared with a friend, and
yes, brilliant.
I want to share here as well. It was the verses in Surah Ali Imran. That was it. It was the verses in Surah Ali Imran in
which
about
verse?
From 111 onwards.
111.
111. It was just before is the famous verse in
ليسوا سواء, right? لا يضركم إلا أذى.
Exactly. Yeah, that's 111. But just before that, you have kuntum khayra ummatin.
Yeah.
And so what I'm saying is, it's interesting how after that verse of praise, you have this verse 111, which talks about they will never harm you except by annoying you. Yet if they should fight you, they will turn their backs, and then they will not be supported.
All right, I see what you're saying. Hello, your mic has dropped off there, but let me see if I can share. Get that verse so everybody can see it. Stop sharing that screen and let me add another one. Okay, so this verse here, so كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر. You were the best of people that were brought out for mankind, enjoining what is right, forbidding what is wrong, and you believe in God. And if the people of the book had likewise had faith, it would have been better for them. Some of them have faith, believers, and others are fasiqun. And then the next verse, like you said, it says لن يضروكم إلا أذى ويقاتلوكم يولون الأدبار ثم لا ينصرون. Yeah, no, I see what you're talking about. This is a very interesting thing when you talk about the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it's describing that among the people of the book who were there at the time, okay, among them are those who were trying at least to harm the believers, And if you notice, we've got a lot of things which have entered our deen from the people of the book because we had not taken God's warning about them seriously. All right, I get you. All right.
And you can link it because the passage is very fascinating insofar as not only does it make these points, but it also talks about Uhud, which is an interesting point to just elucidate and then go back to 111, 112 and onwards. In linking it to this kind of idea of the problem of evil, or the kind of question of causation and those kind of subjects. In 125, it talks about how it says, of course, if you act discipline and obey orders, and they should come at you all of a sudden, just like this, your Lord will supply you with 5,000 angels sent on purpose. The very next verse then says, God has merely turned it into good news for you, so your hearts may feel tranquil over it. Support comes only from God, the powerful, the wise. So then I questioned, I said, what if angels weren't sent? Not because we're trying to make ta'weel or interpretation of the verses, but because the very next verse says that angels would be sent down, or the verse before it, and then continues that angels will be sent down if conditions were met.
All right.
And those conditions are mentioned just if you look there. And that kind of speaks to our need for cause and effect. We know ultimately God is the controller, right? But this angle or aspect speaks to our need for cause and effect. So it corrects the lines in a very practical sense. If you obey and do you see what I'm saying? If you act disciplined, so it's correcting the lines and strengthening the morale and the resolve with a morale boost and good news. So it's interesting. Go ahead.
The interesting thing, because I have my own sort of reading of the whole situation with the angels and the Battle of Badr and Uhud and their involvement on there. I agree with you that these 5,000 angels were not sent, but in that, if you go, I think, I don't know if I can find them straight away over here, but in the same, there it is, the previous one, it says, إذ تقول للمؤمنين أن لن يكفيكم أن يمدكم ربكم بثلاثة آلاف من الملائكة منزلين. So there were two groups. Okay, two groups. There's the 3,000 angels that the Prophet is said to have said to the believers that is it not enough for you that God is going to help you with 3,000 angels? So it seems to me that these three did attend. Okay, but it's these next ones for which, like you said, exactly like you said, I have the same idea that the conditions were not met on this one. So when they attacked, when the mushrikeen at Uhud attacked, and they were not, the believers who did not have sabr and did not have taqwa, okay, in obedience to the messenger, these 5,000 angels were not sent down in support. But that will be going into something which I'll save for another time. What I understand from that. But no, I agree with you that they weren't, the conditions were not met, and those 5,000 were not sent.
Yeah, and for me, the way I'm envisaging it is that the angels were being sent, quote unquote, was for purposes of resolve and for purposes, as it says in verse 126, I think. God is merely turning it into good news for you, so your hearts may feel tranquil over it. And support ultimately only comes from God. The power.
And the victory only comes from God. Yes.
No, so just to go back then and tie up the loose thread about the influence of people or groups from within the people of the book. After those initial verses, it goes on and it says in 112, after some mention of disgrace that will be branded upon the people, it says disgrace will be branded on them wherever they are overtaken, unless they have a bond to God and a bond with other men. They have incurred anger from God, while misery has been branded on them. That is because they disbelieved in God's signs and killed the prophets without any right to. That is because they disobey and act so aggressive. Yet they are all.
Sorry, which verse was that? So
that was 112.
112, yeah.
Then it says 113 that yet they are not all alike. Some people of the book form an upright community. They recite God's verses through the small hours of the night as they bow down on their knees. And he continues that these are honorable men. 114, after some mention of some more details about them, it says they believe in God and the last day. They command decency and forbid dishonor and compete in doing good deeds. These are honorable men. So we know that there's factions. So it's not just a blanket statement, but the point is, after some more mention here we find in 118, you who believe do not take up with any other persons than your own fellows as intimates. They will continually cause you turmoil, and they like anything will distress you, loathing. And for me, have you seen that film Fear and Loathing at some point?
Fear and Loathing, no.
I think, in any case, it continues. It says, loathing shows through their mouths, whilst what's in their minds is even greater. We have provided, or we have explained the signs to you, provided you will use your reason. Here you are loving such people while they do not love you. You believe in the whole book, yet whenever they meet you, they say, we believe. While when they go off by themselves, they gnaw at their fingertips in rage over you. So for me, this whole passage, it kind of really hammers home the importance of standing on guard for these borrowed ideas and concepts. And one borrowed idea that I came across recently was the idea of pre-existence, and it's very popular in Sufi circles. I don't know what your take is on this, but I feel very skeptical towards this idea of a pre-existence in terms of the narrative around it. And the conception of it, insofar as the kind of to be honest, my thing is limited to what the only Qur'anic verse on the subject mentions. But you know the narrative I'm talking about in terms of pre-existence, and it's very big in the Christian narrative, in the Christian tradition, I should say, and in the Judaic tradition as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know it was within the Christian and Judaic tradition either. But I mean, what you mentioned here is it's a very point. It's a good point which I would like everybody to pay attention to, because where the popular conception that we have of that first generation is that they did not have any kind of love or links with the Ahl al-Kitab which were there. But the Quran is emphatic in telling us that a group of the believers, that's why they had to keep on being warned. There were a group of them who loved the Ahl al-Kitab, and the Ahl al-Kitab did not love them back. Okay, and that provided a gateway, right, a pathway, in which, like you said, a lot of these ideas, which we have now, in hadith literature and narrations, have filled out our books, and have influenced the way we view the religion. Yeah, no, brilliant.
If you don't mind, a final point on,
go ahead.
my take on this, the unseen in terms of, I say my take, but the way I'm looking at it is through the lens of the verse in Surah Al-Qamar, verse 55. It says, في مقعد صدق عند مالك
عند مليك مقتدر.
مليك مقتدر. Yes. And so so the translation is, in a sure position under a competent sovereign, or in a and for me that is very, it's still very abstract. It's still not kind of in terms of the question, the initial question of existence and non-existence and things pertaining to that.
في مقعد صدق عند مليك مقتدر. That's interesting. I'll have to definitely think about that in terms of what I've mentioned.
Exactly, which is what I'm doing. Exactly the same thing. I'm just sitting with it and just kind of thinking about it.
Yeah, إن المتقين في جنات ونهر. The muttaqin are in jannat and rivers. في مقعد صدق عند مليك مقتدر. In a honorable. Here they've put in abode, so I don't want people to get confused of what I mentioned before, which was dar, the dar al-akhirah, اللي هي الحيوان. They've put in abode, and that dar is usually translated as abode. Here maq'ad literally just means like a seat. A maq'ad, your maq'ad is your seat where you sit down. Maq'ad sidq, is like a seating of I don't know, truthfulness or honorableness. It's translated here as mostly as honor, but maq'ad sidqin, maybe a true seat, a true seat with the Malik, the king, who is powerful. But yeah, I understand what you're saying about that. But if I were to tie it in to what I've said, like I would tie it in a similar way that it's definitely, this is going to be, if you're in a maq'ad sidqin in the Malik al-Muqtadir, you're definitely going to be in more life than you are, for example, here, or for example in the hellfire, definitely. So brilliant. Sure. Yeah, I'll definitely think on that. Definitely good food for thought. Okay, Zirab, do you mind if there's a few other people I want to get on before we close up? Misab, I think he was here and then he left very quickly. Saeed, I think I can get you on now. All right, Zirab, so I'm going to remove you and add somebody else, okay? Or did I remove you? Okay, you already left. Saeed, assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. How are you, Saeed?
Fine,
Uzbekistan, yeah, from Uzbekistan, right?
Yeah, that's the country of Samarkand and Bukhara and Imam al-Bukhari. Yes. And this is whenever you try to say something about the hadith,
exactly, don't tell that to the hadithists. Don't tell that to the hadiths. They'll say, yeah, you come from the Bukhari is your fault.
Yeah, exactly. But on the other hand, when you talk to people here about Bukhari and some of the contradictions, they put you immediately into kafir category, and then the debate is over pretty much. First of all, brother Khalid, thank you ever so much for everything. Honestly, being born into a Muslim family, and being overloaded with all these hadiths and all this stuff, to be honest, it didn't make me any sense, to believe in God for many, many years, especially taking into account the fact that I was born in the USSR. It was not Uzbekistan at the time. Yeah. So I was born into a communist state, basically. Luckily, the end, the later stages of the regime, but still. But after that, with God's, will. Thankfully, I came across, Adnan Ibrahim, Hassan, Farhan al-Maliki, all these great scholars who, I guess, put me back on the right track, I guess. And, Alhamdulillah, and I see you personally as a continuation of those people, and I pray to God, that all these, torches or all these, gems of truth, will be, continued, throughout the centuries, because otherwise, it looks like the religion has been hijacked. To be honest, and it's a very, very, it's a pity, honestly. But I guess there is still, God's divine plan behind all this stuff. So all we can do is just to do our best and see, how it turns out. Brother Khalid, one thing that's been bothering me a lot, this is, the verse 172 in the surah number 7 regarding the primordial contract, when all the souls were, God called all the souls from the loins of Adam and said, am I not your God? And they, they testified all this stuff. So that we don't have any excuse on the day of judgment, This, makes a bit of a logical problem in sense that, I do not personally...
You don't remember it.
Exactly.
Exactly, you don't remember it. Where is it? Verse number, which one is it again? Surah Al-A'raf, I know, but which?
Yes, 172, I guess, no?
172, let me bring that up. For those of you who are not sure what is meant, it's that famous verse where God says that when he recall with أَخَذَ رَبُّكَ مِنْ بَنِي آدَمَ مِنْ ظُهُورِهِمْ, when he took from their backs, from the children of Adam, from their backs, their offspring, and he made them testify against their own selves, am I not your Lord? They said, we testify. And then the verse then says, أَن تَقُولُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ إِن كُنَّا عَنْ هَذَا غَافِلِينَ, so that you don't say on the day of judgment, we were unaware of that. And of course, straight away the thing that comes to mind is, hey, I am unaware of that, right? I don't remember that happening. And that's true for pretty much most people. I mean, I've actually met, I remember there was this person I met who became a Muslim actually because he was a non-Muslim, and he never used to, want to become Muslim or anything. He used to believe in God. And the reason why he became Muslim is just when he saw this verse, because he says that he could remember it. I also used to know a girl who said that she could always remember it from, she was a Muslim girl. She said she could always remember it from when she was a baby. She could remember this incident. You ask her, what's it like? What image of? He says, no, I can't remember any image or anything or any kind of. I just know that this happened. This exact thing. I'm sure of it happened. But how does that help anybody else? How does it help anybody else? I mean, this is something which needs thought. Maybe somebody else could come on and talk a little bit about it. I see it a little bit. One of the way I look at this verse and a few other verses which talk about. I mean, Zariya just mentioned that about the pre-existence before people coming into this world. I look at it in a sort of a way where it's almost as if we are given permission to come into existence. Because another objection that people make is that I didn't want to be created anyway, right? Almost like what right does God have to create me? I didn't want to be in existence, and so this in one way I sometimes look at it is looking at it as in a sort of an affirmation that God gave us a sort of life beforehand, sort of a temporary life, if you know what I mean. Okay, in order to ask us, am I not your Lord? All right, and when we said yes, okay, that's what part of God's justice is that he would not bring somebody into sort of full existence without their sort of like sort of acquiescent into it, or agreeing to it. So I was saying, yes, we testify that you are our Lord. It's like we're testifying that, yes, we agree to come into this world where you are the Lord. So I sort of understand it in that kind of way. But, one of the things, for example, the Sufis say is that this is one of the things which you can remember. Okay, you can come eventually one day, you can actually remember this. Okay, just like, sometimes, you have something which you've forgotten, you can't remember it. And then one day, it's just there in your mind, something you forgot from years ago, completely forgotten about it. Somebody tries to remind you about it, you don't remember. But then one day you actually do remember it. and it's as if the knowledge was always there. So that's the best read I can give you on that from myself. What do you think about it? What have you thought?
I have no idea. I believe, there must be some sort of a pre-existence before coming to this world, because when he says الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا, he says I created death first, and then life. So was there a life before that death, or this is because
yeah,
it looks like there was some sort of an eternity related to man's soul, or when ruh, as he says,
yeah.
Then he created death, and then he gave another life, and then he will give another day, and then we get resurrected again, so
yeah. So yeah, I mean, like you said, there's actually a verse which mentions that there's 2 deaths and 2 lives. ربنا أمتنا اثنتين وحييتنا اثنتين. Oh God, you made us to be in death twice and in life twice. So that could be linked to that. But it's definitely one of the most intricate and complicated. Sorry, I didn't share it. Let me share that verse. Oops. It's definitely one of the most intricate and sort of like puzzling verses in the Quran. But remember, some things, if they're not for us, they'll be for others. If we don't understand it, somebody else can come eventually to sort of understand it. I mean, I'm still puzzling things out myself, but definitely it's a very interesting thing to think on.
Yes, that's the verse.
All right, okay. So let me see if I can. Do you mind if I see if I can add any? Yeah, that's the verse before. When I don't know anybody who knows somebody else who has a take on this verse, perhaps you could come on next time and share with us. We'd love to hear it.
That would be great.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, let me very quickly, because Missam, he tried to get on a couple of times. I want to try and get him on one more time. I can see him here in the background. So if you don't mind, can I remove you? And then
Sure. Thank you ever so much, Khalid. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Bless you. Okay, Missam, I'm going to try to get you on. It says you're oh good, you're unmuted. Good. Let's add you. Maybe this time about your camera and it will stay on, right? Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
How are you? Yes, good.
Yes, I'm good. Yeah,
sorry about that. I saw you waiting before. Yeah, I saw you waiting
that's
before.
all right. No worries, bro.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Okay.
so if you still have time, because it's already at the hour mark.
No, it's fine. Fine, go ahead. Go ahead.
So because my connection had dropped off, so I couldn't really get your clarification on what you were telling me about the hellfire not being eternal. Because okay, so here's my viewpoint on it. So what I think is, it's something that's not eternal. It's finite, but as long as you're in it, like to you it seems infinite. You understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So because you have these people who have had near-death experiences, or people who have sort of tripped out on LSD or DMT or these kind of psychoactive drugs. So what they seem to say is, like, within that moment, time, it seems to stretch towards eternity.
Yeah.
Understand? That the perception of time, it just vanishes. Like everything goes from forever to forever. You don't have a time anymore. You just in a state of perpetual existence. Like that's how they explain that stuff.
Yeah,
So
I mean that's exactly. Sorry to cut you off here. That's exactly how I understand it as well. I think it's a place of timelessness. I think that really the word Khalidina is really means timelessness. Okay, so you go into a place of time. It's not that it's going to be eternity. Like it's not 1 hour followed by another to make a day, which follows another day, another week, month, etc. all the way till infinity. No, I don't see it that way. So yeah, exactly. I mean, the best phrase which I've come across, which I took from somebody from an NDE video, they said it's like a perpetual unfolding of now, like a perpetual unfolding of now. So that's how I see it. That's how I see it a little bit.
Yeah, subhanallah. But yeah, definitely in the end, it's wallahu a'lam, you know, we can only make
Yeah, I mean that's why when I made that presentation, I wanted to say, you know, that this is, we're talking about something which is beyond our experience. You know, we haven't died yet, and we don't know exactly what it is. But what we do know in this world is, what we do understand is justice, and that God has commanded us to justice and prohibited injustice. And so what will happen on in hell will be just. Okay, even if we say, so that's how I wanted to add that. You know, even if we say that it's eternal for all time, like literal time, it will still, nevertheless, God will make it such a way there will not be unjust. That nobody will have a punishment even a little bit more than what they used to do. Okay, so that's why I make that phrase. You know, that it can be eternal, but the punishment nevertheless inside it can be finite. It can be finite. That can work. You know.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, that seems like it. You know, like depending on the reading of the verses of the Quran, subhanallah. So that's how it seems. That is something that is definitely not forever, but for the ones who are in it, it's forever. It seems like forever to them. So you know, because one of the verses that Ibn Arabi he expounds on it, you know, where it is like the inside, the batin of it is you know, it's Allah's wrath, but sorry, the zahir it's Allah's wrath, but the batin is Allah's mercy.
ظاهره من قبله العذاب. باطنه فيه الرحمة وظاهره من قبله العذاب. That's a verse in Surah Al-Hadid, I believe.
That's the one exactly, subhanallah. So what he says regarding to that is something that if you see it from the outside, it looks like it's azab, it's something that it's a punishment from Allah, but for the ones who are in it, the inside, the batin it's Allah's mercy, like it's rahmah for them. And one of the verses, you know, there once that I was reading, where it says, I'm not sure, again, I'm sorry, I have to, you know, be more precise in
it's okay.
my verses that I tell. So anyways, so it says if the ashab an-nar, if they are patient, then it's maswal lahum, it's something like that, right? That it's their resting place. But if they're patient, so maybe what we can say is, if they agree, like if they accept that this is what they have to stay in, maybe this is what their home becomes. Maybe they can become okay.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what Ibn Arabi he says. He plays on the word as well, that the azab punishment will become azb. So if you remove the alif from the word azab, you get the word azb, which means sort of pleasure or sweetness. And you know, there's the analogy of that, of how people can start to love pain even in this world, right? That people that start to love and feel pleasure from pain. So that is given as an analogy. You're right. Let me see if I can get that verse up for you in Surah Al-Hadid.
Thank you for that. Everything definitely Allah's mercy, Allah's rahmah precedes every single thing in the universe that happens. So you know, that's what we need to focus on as Muslims.
Exactly. So
what,
this is the verse where it talks. It's specifically talking about the hypocrites and how they say to the believers, "Let us have some of your light," and they will tell them, you know, go back and seek your own light. And it says, فَضُرِبَ بَيْنَهُمْ بِسُورٍ لَهُ بَابٍ. And then you know, sort of like it says, you know, sort of a wall is set up between them, which has a door, okay, wherein is mercy, okay, babun, batinuhu fihi rahma, a door which inside is mercy, وظاهره من قبله العذاب, but it's outside, the outside of it is a azab, and it's a perplexing verse, definitely. But the interesting thing is, I've always wondered is why it's specifically talking about the hypocrites. And seemingly maybe that's got something to do with how, you know, the hypocrites, the outward is like azab, right? And in this world, the outward they are pretending to be believers, whereas the inside they are filled with kufr, and so it seems like something has been given, which is which mirrors that, right? So they will have something where the inside of it is mercy, but the outside of it is punishment. I'm not sure, but thank you. Yes, definitely. Thank you for sharing that with us. All right, I think I will try to. Yeah, thank you. I think I will try to end it there. Thank you so much for coming on. To everybody else, I'll just remove you now. Okay.
So.
Yeah. All right.
Yes, inshallah. Look forward to seeing all of you guys next time.
Yeah. Allah barak feek. Allah barak feek. Take care. All right. Okay. Thank you everybody for coming on. I think I'll try to end the stream there. Saeed, he's still there. We already had him. Alhamdulillah, Hector, you're all on the backstage, so thank you for staying on. This topic which I chose today is actually eventually the next long video, sort of video essays which I want to make is going to be on the topic of hell and eternity in hell and all of those sort of things. I'm not sure when I'll get it done. Going back to work tomorrow, so we'll see when I can etch out the time. The next stream we will do maybe in a few days, if not definitely next week, Saturday. This time will be the normal time for the streams, definitely after Ramadan. So thank you all for coming on, and inshallah, sorry if there are questions in the chat that I couldn't get to. Let me just have a look at a few and see. What's this say? What do you believe happens when the finite punishment is paid over? Well, that's the thing. When you say when the finite punishment, I'm saying that it will be a finite punishment, but still within eternity. So if hellfire is eternal, if it's eternal, then the punishment inside that eternity will still be finite. It will still be finite. That's how I look at it. What website am I using for the Quran? I'm just using the Qur'anx.com. Qur'anx.com. And somebody else has said 7172 is totally new to me in terms of understanding. Yeah, have a look at it, definitely. Alain. And somebody here, we have Ashraf. Let me add him. I believe the second victory of Rome is yet to occur in the end of times. The second victory is Christian Russia against the NATO. All right, that's one of the... come on next time and explain that to us if you can, Ashraf. It will be nice to hear it. All right, okay, so I'm going to end the stream there. Again, thank you so much for coming on. And really brilliant that I had so many people willing to come on and speak and share things with us. And hopefully that trend will continue and we'll get many different insights into various verses of the Quran. Jazakumullah khair and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.